the Cape Flats, and it's Grange.
How are you this evening?
I'm feeling a bit tired, but I'm good.
Do you think we should carry on?
Yes, now we can carry on.
You won't withdraw.
Well, unless the commissioners feel otherwise.
No. The commissioners can't do that. For how long have you now been a judge of the Western Cape High Court?
Overall, 11 years, of which 2 were acting continuously.
But after your permanent appointment?
7
years.
No, sorry, 9. It's 9 years.
Yeah, you will complete 9 years actually at the end of April this year.
Yes.
Because you were appointed on the 1st of May 2007.
2007, that's correct.
Yes. You indicate in your form that you were a member of Judicial Officers Association of South Africa, JSC. Does that mean you were a magistrate?
Yes, that's correct, Justice Party.
For how long?
I was a magistrate for 5 years, and I was a regional court magistrate for approximately 7-8 years.
And what rank at the magistracy did you reach? What's the highest rank?
The highest rank within the magistracy itself was an ordinary magistrate, but thereafter I've completed the regional court test, and then I was promoted to the regional court magistrate, which is equivalent of the rank of a chief magistrate.
And did you have to do any management duties anywhere, be it in the district court or the regional court?
In the regional court, I was a coordinator, assisting the regional court president in managing the court and with case flow management. And that I've done at the Bellville Regional Court and also the Blue Downs Regional Court. So approximately there was about 6 magistrates, regional magistrates within that cluster.
Now you want to be appointed as Deputy Judge President of the Western Cape High Court. How far are you from the top of seniority of judges in the Western Cape?
We are presently 33 permanent judges, Justice Party and commissioners, and I'm around about 21, I think, on that list.
And were you to be appointed as Deputy Judge President? You have quite a lot of judges who were senior to you who would now be under you. Do you think that you'd be comfortable in that position?
Well, Justice Party, at the time I was coordinator at the regional court, most of my peers were in fact my seniors. And most of them were white males. So when I arrived as the coordinator and being asked to be the coordinator, I was the most junior regional magistrate within that cluster. And we did fairly well within that cluster in terms of case flow management and in terms of backlog. So although it's not comparable with regard to the High Court, I have actual experience in managing my peers and working with my peers. I've also, in 2005, registered for my BCom honours degree, where I, in fact, with some IT students, worked around a project regarding case flow management, and we designed a computer program with regard to case flow management. And that was part of my technical report in that regard. So I'm acutely aware in terms of what is required with regard to case flow management, and in terms of seniority, I worked with my peers that's far more my senior in that regard.
What is your relationship, if you are able to tell us, with the other judges, particularly senior judges in the Western Cape?
My relationship is fairly good. The collegiality between us very well. I interact with him on a daily basis And we have this interaction where we take each other for lunch. If we preside in appeals, we will go for lunch. If we preside in full bench appeals, the most senior judge normally take the other judges for lunch, and that we do. We also have what we call Friday lunch, where sometimes we go all together judges to lunch, and we interact with one another as judges. So my interaction with him is really good.
Yes. With your almost 9 years experience in that court, are there any problems, shortcomings, or challenges, whatever you want to name it, that you have noticed? And if so, what would you like to do about them?
Justice Mapate and Commissioners, it is so that presently the Judge President is running the division extremely well, but there's always room for improvement. A few things that I would like to see in order that we can better things is with regard to how we approach the appointment of acting judges in order to streamline that process so the people that we approach understand the purpose for the reason for calling them to act. I would also like to see that we can have regard to the IT within the court and how we can better that process in order to save resources. And within the court structure, there's always budgetary constraints. I'm part of 4 judges that are doing criminal pre-trials, and within that we identified certain issues, and the 4 judges that are dealing with that approached the Judge President in order how we can deal with the backlog. And what we came up is perhaps we should look at circuit courts within the budgetary constraints, how we can deal with some of the matters in terms of access of justice, go and hear the matters instead of coming from the circuit, whether it's George or Neisner, and locally, how we can deal with those matters in that level. But over and above that, I would also like to see that instead of prisoners coming to court and being transported, that where a case is being remanded, that we used, and I know there's a pilot project, the audio-visual relay in order to save time and costs in that regard. So that is one of the issues that I would like to bring to the table within our division, instead of the trucks coming from Paulsmoor with prisoners and only the matter to be postponed. So those are some of the issues that I would like to raise. But more importantly, in terms of creating collegiality between our peers and our colleagues, and also to bring about the diversity that we've got, that instead of seeing that as a difference, to use that as a cement in order to cementing us together as a team, because we must work as a team together. We need each other in order to make the division work. We might come from different backgrounds, from different educational backgrounds, but that should not keep us apart. It should bring us together as a team.
Have you discussed any of the problems that you see and suggested solutions with your Judge President or Deputy Judge President?
Occasionally, we'll go for lunch and we've discussed some of the issues. We've also discussed in terms of the criminal pre-trials with the Judge President. In fact, we had a workshop recently where we're trying now to use the Section 104 capital A pre-bargaining more effectively, where judges get involved on an earlier stage in order to see how we can curb lengthy trials. Because, as you will know, Justice Mapate and Commissioners, most of the more serious crimes are coming to the High Court. Recently, we've seen upsurge of accused persons of matters of accused with 10 and 12 or multiple accused. So we'd like to see how we can have an intervention before hand and play a far more better managerial role in that regard.
We have been told that with regard to outstanding judgments, for instance, there is a list that is kept of judgments, when did they become due, and so forth. or when were they were they
Reserved.
reserved? What has been your experience there? Has it helped?
No, it definitely helped. I think it's a good way of keeping the judges on its toes. And every Friday in our meetings, the judge president will mention the list and highlight it, because every 3 months you need to report to the Office of Chief Justice the outstanding reserve matters. And in terms of the approach, it's always that if the judge has got difficulties in dealing with the outstanding or reserve, come to the office, discuss the matter. Please don't let it stay on your table for too long. So there's that encouragement on a weekly basis to ensure that reserve judgments are kept to a minimum.
And if you were to be appointed, and it were to happen that the judge president goes on leave, which will leave you as the head of the court, there's a problematic judge who has not delivered a judgment within the time period that they were supposed to do so. What steps would you take in order to ensure that there's accountability?
Justice Mapate and commissioners, I think the first step will be to have a discussion with the judge or the relevant judge to find out and inquire what's the reason for the long delay. There might be a valid reason. For instance, there is a matter pending within the Supreme Court of Appeal or within the Constitutional Court that might make this matter moot, or that will bring clarity to a point that was raised in front of a judge. Therefore, judgment in reserve until the judgment is dealt with within a higher court. But if that's happened, I think it's incumbent upon the judge to inform the parties about why the delay.
Assume that there's no judgment coming from one of the higher courts.
Well, is to have a discussion with the judge, to give him some time, to be firm and give him a time frame, and if that is not being done, to report him to the Office of the Chief Justice. That's it. I mean, there can not be any other way of dealing with that.
And you won't be afraid to do that, to report
No,
to the
absolutely
judge?
not. Justice Mapate.
Thank you. JP?
Thank you very much, President Pat. Just two questions for Judge Lechrans. The first relates to norms and standards. There are those who believe, judges, who believe that norms and standards are tantamount to an interference with the independence of the judiciary. Would you like to comment in relation to that?
Yeah. Well, with regard to the norms and standards, if one have regard to the directive that was issued on the 28th of February 2014, it's quite evident that it creates transparency, accountability. It creates a tool where judges can understand what's needed from them. It also brings about efficiency, and the public can see what it is that we as judges need to do. So in terms of its independence, of diminishing it, I can't see a problem with that. In fact, it enhances quality justice. So we can then can behave to what is here within the directive in terms of norms and standards. And with that, the public can see what it is that we need to do as judges and must do. So for me, I can't see that there can be any difficulty with that.
My final question is this, Justice Lechrans. The outgoing Deputy Judge President is a female, she's a woman, and you are competing against two candidates who are also women. Do you have any views with regard to gender transformation with specific reference to the office of the Deputy Judge President?
Well, assuming that they are competent people.
There's no doubt that gender transformation and gender inequality is an issue that needs to be addressed. It's an issue that the entire society, and we as society, needs to address. With regard to myself, clearly, I will not, or my appointment will not advance the issue of gender transformation, but it will in terms of racial transformation. In regard to the gender transformation, I've, as a regional court magistrate, had the opportunity to work with the Law, Race and Gender Research Unit that worked with the magistracy with regard to social context training. And one of the leading facilitators was a person that had a rich history of gender activism. And I can relate to that, because coming from Elsies River in terms of its poverty, its domestic violence, its economic abuse against women, and my mother didn't escape that. But the one thing that she taught us as boys is to be humble, to be dignified, but more importantly, not to stereotype people, to respect gender, and to respect women. And from that rich background, there's no doubt in my mind that in terms of the transformation process, I might not have the anatomy of a woman, but I understand the issues. I understand the issues in terms of the transformation agenda that we need to do within this country.
Ms. Stewart?
Judge Lechranzi, I think most of us understand the issues and they need to be addressed. Nobody seems to be able to address them effectively. How do we address the issues at the Western Cape Bar specifically? How do we deal with the transformation that's not happening, both on a gender and a racial basis?
Well, in terms of the transformation at the bar, it's an issue that's been coming on now for quite some time. And if one has regard to the newspapers and how it's being responded to, it appears there's always a delay. I haven't been at the Cape Bar because I'm coming from the magistracy, but it's quite evident more can be done. And that more is clearly in terms of advocacy training. That more can be done in terms of senior counsel, helping junior counsel, but not only helping them in terms of getting them to court, because from my own experience is in terms of what we see, state attorneys do appoint counsel, young counsel, but then the lead counsel is a silk and arguing the matter, and the junior counsel is just sitting next to it. Now, that needs to change. We also need to see the junior counsel stand up and argue in the case. And that's transformation. That is transformation not in terms of form, but in substance. And we need that. And we need to do that more often. But in terms of the bar, I think real intervention is needed in that regard.
I'll leave it to our minister to ask what that intervention is. Thanks.
He's
Judge
not here.
President.
Mr. Nakis, or Commissioner Nakis?
Thank you, Judge.
Commissioner Furidi, do you have your hand up?
I just have one question for you. What, if you are appointed as the Deputy Judge President in the Western Cape, what value you would bring in the office of the Judge President? What value you would personally bring?
Commissioner, overall, I've got 23 years experience as a judicial officer. That includes my magisterial years, my regional court magistrate years, my acting judge years, and my years as a judge. The value that I think I will bring is because I've actual experience in working with peers. Working with your peers is slightly different from working in an environment where you are employer-employee relationship. You're working with your peers that were, some of them, extremely successful in private practice. Some come from the bar, some come from the attorney's profession. And these people has got a wealth of experience. So in managing them, one must always realize, but you are but the first amongst equals. And to inculcate a sense of collegiality, to inculcate a sense of supportive structure, and also to see to what extent the likes and dislikes of some of the judges. Because judges are human beings. Some like to do commercial work. Others want to do criminal work. Others want to concentrate on tax law and so forth. One needs to understand the strength of the judges in order to see to what extent you can mix that. Because ultimately, transformation is also the process of growing, the process of helping, and to see to what extent there can be this osmosis of experience. And that is what I will do.
President, thank you. Judge, the oath of office that judicial officers take includes that they would administer justice to all without fear, favor, or prejudice. How can norms and standards interfere with that? Isn't that the independence of the judiciary? To administer justice to all without fear, favor, or prejudice?
Can the Commission just repeat the question? I'm not too sure if I understand.
The JP tells us there are those who hold a view that norms and standards are seen to interfere with the independence of judges. Now I'm looking at the Constitution and to see what oath they take when they take office and what the Constitution envisages to constitute judicial independence. And that says to me they must just administer justice to all without fear, favor, or prejudice. So I can't see the connection between norms and standards interfering with that independence. Do you share that view with me?
Yeah, but norms and standards cannot interfere with that.
Okay.
Norms and standards, in my view, is a form of accountability. Accountability to ourselves, accountability to the Constitution, to uphold the rule of law.
And accepting that all judges must be exposed to the full spectrum of matters that serve in the court in which they are, allocating matters of certain complexity to judges who are junior, what would be your sense about that?
Well, in terms of the complexity of matter and giving to junior judges, is we all need to grow. We all, as judges, must be able to be given a chance with regard to the complexity of matters. And in terms of the complexity of matters, I think that if the junior judge is not be given the opportunity, when will that time arrive? So as part of the management and in regard to the present manner of dealing it, is the judge president, in consultation with the deputy judge president, deals with the allocation. And the allocation is being done in terms of the complexity of matters. And if needs be, then 2 judges will preside in particular matters, or even 3 in terms of the complexity of matters. And that's where we can grow as in a division.
One of the responses a judge gave in relation to delayed judgments was that they were not Africans competent, and therefore it took them longer. And it may in part explain why some of the judgments take long, because they are complex and a judge may take longer than otherwise would do with a less complex matter. Is it something that must be factored into this decision to allocate matters to specific judges?
Well, from my experience, it's always a factor that's taken into account. It's a factor that's always been taken into account in our division.
I thank you, President.
Thank you. Commissioner Fourie.
Thank you, President. I'll be brief. Good evening.
Good evening,
Judge
Commissioner.
Lachranzi. Do I understand your CV correctly that from the age of about 16 years old, you had to work in order to pay not only for your tertiary education, but also for your secondary education?
Yes, that's correct.
I just want to say that that is commendable and a wonderful example.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Can I then just ask you one question, flowing from what Commissioner Semenya has asked you? Should you become the Deputy Judge President, will you encourage the specialization of judges in certain fields, or would you encourage all judges to become jacks of all trade, and you know what flows therefm, master of none? Or is there somewhere between a golden line?
Commissioner, I think it must be a golden line. There are judges on our bench that prefer certain work, and that is the truth. I think it's people prefer some commercial work. Other judges prefer tax work. Other judges prefer criminal work, etc. But to deal with that, we need to expose all the judges to all the kinds of work. And how we deal with that is to get the judge with a far more experience in tax work and get one of the other judges to preside with in matters in order to get part and to grow in terms of its own experience and to see how matters are handled. That's how I started off, sitting with Judge Dennis Davis in a particular matter, and thereafter I was given a tax matter. So that's how we grow within our division. And it's happened frequently and often. So there's definitely a golden line that we need to do. And we cannot allow judges just to do commercial work. They also need to see the cold face of what's happening within our societies in terms of the criminal work. So yes, they're also given some criminal work.
Thank you, Judge Lachranzi. Thank you, President.
Minister.
Judge Lachranzi,
Good evening, Minister.
good evening. Silk status is a coveted status in the profession for obvious reasons. Do you believe that there is fairness currently in the manner in which candidates for Silk are recommended for appointment by the President?
Mr. Minister, because I'm not coming from the bar, it's extremely difficult with regard to comment in terms of that particular question. But my view on it is this. We as judges, on a daily basis, see counsel appearing before us. And I don't think there can be anything wrong if a particular person wants to obtain silk, that if input has been asked with regard to a particular person, that we give input. Clearly, we cannot be prescriptive, but to give input, I think, cannot be seen as we are interfering. With regard to the process of how the bar operates and how they select silks, I'm not privy to that. So unfortunately, I cannot comment whether the fairness or unfairness in terms of that relates, Mr. Minister.
But isn't it so that currently, before recommendations are forwarded to my office, that actually after the bar has made its selection, it forwards their preferred candidates to the JP for comment, and I assume JPs would then invite judges in their division to express a view on the candidates that have been put forward.
Yes, that happens. Normally, we will find the list of the persons that has been indicated they want silk status, and the judge president asks us to give input. But you must remember, Mr. Minister, some of the people that ask for silk rarely appear in court or in front of us these days. So it is difficult if you haven't seen a person before you in court to make a recommendation on that particular person.
Sir, I may have missed something. Are you suggesting that there are people who get to be recommended for silk who have not done court work?
No, what I'm
As in
saying,
appearance.
what I'm saying is because there's so many courts
Oh,
as an individual
sorry.
judge. So when
Oh,
person
all
X
right.
comes up, you might not say, but I
Sorry.
haven't seen this person appearing before me, so it would be unfair to make a comment in that regard.
Do you believe that predetermined criteria need to be developed to create transparency around the appointment process? And if so, do you believe that the judiciary should make any contribution in the development of those criteria?
Well, I think it's important that the judiciary make criteria because some of the judges coming from the bar will understand it. So in terms of the process being more transparent, I cannot see any problems if the judiciary makes some contribution in regard to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Lechranzi. I would like you, because I don't think I did, express our appreciation to the other two candidates, your colleagues. Could you please convey our appreciation for the fact that though you were scheduled to come for the interviews on Friday, you were able to make yourselves available today, and we've now gone into the night. So thank you so much for giving us that indulgence, and convey our appreciation to your colleagues as well.
I will definitely do that, Justin.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
Thanks.
excused.
Thank you.